The sun rises over the Giza Plateau, casting long shadows across three colossal monuments that have stood for over 4,000 years. These pyramids, particularly the Great Pyramid of Khufu, represent one of humanity's most audacious architectural achievements. Yet despite centuries of study, the exact methods used to construct these impossibilities in stone have remained shrouded in mystery. Until now. Through advanced archaeological evidence, engineering analysis, and digital reconstruction, we can finally piece together the story of how ancient hands transformed 2.5 million limestone blocks into an eternal testament to human ambition. It is the 26th century, before the Common Era. Egypt's fourth dynasty has reached the zenith of its power under Pharaoh Khufu, known to the Greeks as Cheops. The Nile floods with perfect regularity, blessing the black soil with fertility, filling the royal granaries with wheat and barley. This abundance allows Khufu to conceive of something unprecedented, a tomb so massive, so precisely engineered, that it would secure his passage to the afterlife and proclaim Egypt's supremacy for all eternity. He envisions a perfect pyramid, its sides aligned to the cardinal directions with supernatural accuracy, rising nearly 500 feet into the desert sky. To his advisors, it seems impossible. To Khufu, it is destiny. The first challenge is location. Khufu's architects, led by a vizier, whose name may have been Hamunu, survey the desert west of Memphis, the capital. They choose the Giza Plateau deliberately. The bedrock here is solid limestone, strong enough to support unimaginable weight. More importantly, it sits on higher ground, visible for miles, a statement of divine authority. But there is practical genius, too. The plateau's natural stone can be quarried on site, and the Nile's annual floods bring water close enough to transport the heaviest blocks. Every decision is both spiritual and supremely practical. The quarrying begins not with slaves, as Hollywood has taught us to believe, but with skilled workers. Recent archaeological discoveries have shattered the myth of brutal slavery. Excavations near the pyramids have revealed workers' villages, complete with breweries, bakeries, and medical facilities. These were not the quarters of the oppressed, but of organized laborers who took pride in their work. Graffiti found inside the pyramids themselves shows team names, crew rivalries, even jokes. One inscription reads, "The drunkards of Menkaure." These were Egyptian citizens fulfilling a labor obligation, similar to taxation, during the flood season when farming was impossible. They were fed, housed, and given medical care. Some were even buried near the pyramids they built, an honor reserved for those deemed worthy. The workers attacked the limestone bedrock with copper chisels, wooden wedges, and dolerite pounders, an incredibly hard stone that can pulverize softer rock. They cut channels around each block, then drive wooden wedges into the stone. When water is poured over the wedges, they expand with tremendous force, fracturing the limestone along natural planes. Each block weighs approximately 2.5 tons. The granite blocks for the king's chamber, quarried 500 miles away in Aswan, weigh up to 80 tons each. Moving them will require methods that push human ingenuity to its absolute limit. Here is where evidence meets reconstruction. For generations, scholars proposed elaborate ramp systems, but none could fully explain how blocks reached the upper levels without ramps that would themselves require more material than the pyramid. Modern engineering analysis suggests a more sophisticated approach, a combination of systems working together. External ramps likely brought materials to the lower levels. But as the pyramid rose, internal ramps may have spiraled upward through the structure itself, a theory supported by thermal imaging showing density variations in the pyramid's mass. These internal passages would have been filled and hidden as construction concluded, making them invisible to later generations. But how did workers move multi-ton blocks, even with ramps? The answer lies in a discovery so simple it was hiding in plain sight. In 2014, a team of physicists demonstrated that ancient Egyptians understood something crucial about friction. Wall paintings show workers pouring water in front of sledges. For centuries, this was dismissed as ceremonial. But experimental archaeology proved its genius. Wet sand reduces friction by nearly 50%. A team of men pulling a sledge across dampened sand can move loads that would be impossible on dry ground. Suddenly, what seemed superhuman becomes achievable through knowledge of physics that wouldn't be formally described for millennia. The precision staggers modern engineers. The Great Pyramid's base is leveled to within 2 centimeters across its 230-meter width. Its sides are aligned to true north with an error of only 3/60ths of a degree. This is not accident. This is mastery. Evidence suggests the Egyptians used the stars for astronomical alignment, specifically the circumpolar stars that never set. By marking the rising and setting points of a star and bisecting the angle, they could establish true north without magnetic compasses. For leveling, they likely used water-filled trenches cut into the bedrock, creating a perfectly level reference line using the one thing that cannot lie, the surface of still water. The internal chambers reveal even more sophisticated engineering. The king's chamber contains granite beams weighing 40 to 70 tons, placed with such precision that even today, a knife blade cannot fit between them. Above this chamber, 5 stress-relieving chambers distribute the weight of millions of tons of stone above. The angled stones forming these chambers are not decorative. They're structural engineering, designed to redirect crushing weight away from the chamber below. The Egyptians understood load distribution, stress, and strain without calculus or computer modeling. They understood it through observation, experiment, and accumulated wisdom passed from master to apprentice across generations. The outer casing stones, most of which have been stripped away over centuries, were cut and polished with such precision that the joints were nearly invisible. These weren't rough blocks stacked haphazardly. Each was shaped to fit its specific position, creating a smooth, gleaming surface of white Tura limestone that reflected the sun like a beacon visible for miles. The pyramid wasn't a pile of rocks. It was a precisely engineered machine made of stone, every component serving structural, symbolic, and aesthetic purposes simultaneously. 20 years of continuous work. 4,000 people working year-round, with 20,000 more during the flood season when farming ceased. The logistics are staggering. Every worker needs 4 pounds of bread and 2 jugs of beer daily. The bakeries must produce tens of thousands of loaves. Cattle must be slaughtered, fish caught, lentils distributed. Behind every block placed is an invisible army of cooks, brewers, toolmakers, administrators, physicians. The pyramid is not just a tomb. It's an economic engine, organizing society, distributing resources, creating purpose beyond survival. But there is something else happening here, something modern reconstruction helps us understand. This is not just engineering. This is theology made manifest. The pyramid's shape mirrors the rays of sun breaking through clouds, the Benben stone that represented the primordial mound of creation. Every measurement contains symbolic meaning. The perimeter of the base, divided by twice, its height yields a number remarkably close to pi, though whether this is intentional or coincidental remains debated. The internal passages align with stars associated with Osiris and the afterlife. The structure is simultaneously a stairway to heaven, a sundial, a declaration of divine kingship, and a massive calendar marking the Egyptian understanding of cosmic order. As the pyramid nears completion, something remarkable happens. The workers inscribe their names and crews inside the structure, in places they know will never be seen once construction finishes. They leave messages for eternity, not for glory, but from pride. These inscriptions tell us something profound about the human spirit. These builders knew they were creating something that would outlast empires. They were binding themselves to immortality, not as pharaohs, but as the hands that built the impossible. The final block is placed. The pyramidion, the capstone, possibly covered in gold or electrum, is hoisted to the apex. Perhaps there is ceremony, offerings, celebrations. The external ramps are dismantled. The internal passages are sealed. The smooth casing stones transform the stepped structure into a perfect geometrical form. What had been a construction site becomes a monument, a mountain made by human hands, a dwelling place for a god-king's eternal soul. Khufu dies, perhaps never seeing his pyramid truly completed. His body is mummified, wrapped, placed in a sarcophagus of red granite. The funeral procession ascends the causeway, enters the ascending passage, navigates the grand gallery with its corbelled ceiling soaring overhead, and finally reaches the king's chamber. A pharaoh is sealed inside. The passages are blocked with granite plugs. The entrance is concealed. The pyramid is no longer a building. It is a machine for resurrection, powered by faith, engineering, and the labor of thousands who believed they were ensuring cosmic order. Centuries pass. The old kingdom collapses. The pyramids are looted. The smooth casing stones are stripped to build medieval Cairo. The entrance is lost and rediscovered multiple times. Explorers tunnel through solid stone searching for treasure, finding mostly empty chambers. The pyramid becomes a mystery because its purpose is forgotten. Later generations, unable to imagine moving such stones without modern machinery, attribute the construction to lost civilizations, aliens, magical technologies. The simple truth human knowledge, organization, and labor seems impossible because we have forgotten what we once knew. Modern technologies finally allowing us to see what ancient eyes witnessed. Ground-penetrating radar reveals hidden chambers. Muon particle detectors, using cosmic rays, map internal spaces without drilling a single hole. Three-dimensional scanning creates digital models accurate to millimeters. Computer simulations test construction theories, showing which methods work and which fail. Experimental archaeology builds scale models using ancient tools, proving that copper chisels and dolerite pounders can cut limestone, that wet sand reduces friction. That knowledge and organization matter more than impossible technologies. The greatest reconstruction is not digital, it's understanding. We reconstruct not just the methods, but the minds behind them. These were not primitive people using brute force. They were sophisticated engineers, astronomers, organizers, and artists who commanded resources through administrative genius and inspired labor through shared purpose. They calculated, experimented, revised, and perfected. They left us a monument that has outlasted their language, their religion, their civilization itself. The pyramid stands because it was built not just with blocks, but with knowledge. There is profound irony in our modern struggle to understand these ancient methods. We who build skyscrapers and send machines to Mars look at stacked stone and feel humbled. Perhaps this is the pyramid's final lesson. Technology advances, but human ingenuity is constant. The same species that shaped stone with copper now splits atoms, but the capacity for organized effort, for solving impossible problems, for dreaming beyond the limits of a single lifetime, this has always been within us. The pyramid is not a mystery. It is a mirror, showing us that we have always been capable of the extraordinary when we combine knowledge, cooperation, and will. As the sun sets over Giza, the pyramids cast their ancient shadows across the sand, and we see ourselves in their stones, ambitious, mortal desperate to leave something that endures, capable of achieving the impossible when we remember that we always have been.